Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with Josh Scorcher, and tonight we are here with the top 10 hard but fun games. So basically, you ever want a game that's challenging you, but fun at the same time? Well, here's your list. Well, honestly, there's a couple games that give me that, oh god, it's so hard, but can't help play it. One, definitely Cuphead, because Jesus. And two, Metroid Dread, because, and again, this is just my personal experience, so those are definitely the hardest games I ever played. Now, for this. Shall we? Let's see what Josh thinks. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's check it out.
I call it the video game. It is designed so no one over the age of 13 will ever finish.
If only you knew the future. Probably younger players could actually do that. I wonder what game. I wonder if it's harder than either a long slog or just really difficult. Let's see. Here we go. Got it.
In the old years of 1980s, video games were still a new form of media, and with that, there needed to be some sort of gravitas to them in order for them to be worth the insane price points they were going for at the time. Hence, most developers made them super difficult to entice players to come back and try again and again to beat them. Also helped that it made arcades super profitable back in the day. Nowadays, with games becoming longer and longer and accessibility being as important as story and gameplay, games tend to be much easier to entice a larger audience.
So either shorter hard or longer
accessibility, I call being a filthy casual.
Yeah, I said it. I want a challenge. I want brutality. I want games that'll kick my butt and have me laughing and or crying the whole time doing so. Hence, our current countdown. Okay,
this
the
should be fun.
First, we are looking at how hard a game is, plus how fun and rewarding it is to play through them. The game will constantly kick your butt, but you just don't care because you're having a good time. When you die, it's a skill issue and doesn't make you upset. When you lose, it feels fair. Also, blatant padding doesn't count. Also, some games have spikes and dips in difficulty, so we're prioritizing consistently hard games with stable difficulty curves. Third, completing the basic game is what we're focusing more on here. Self-imposed extraneous challenges don't count, otherwise we'd have to count 100%ing Kirby's Epic Yarn or Nuzlocke. Lastly, these are hard games, not hard modes. It's good to have hard modes, but the base difficulty matters more. That said, these are the top 10 hard but fun
games. Hi, Shifu. Never remember this one.
Oh, lucky! A Soulsborne at number 10 again! Don't you just love all this variety from me?
Those who may not be up to date on the game terminology, we don't judge, may be wondering, what is a Soulsborne game? To sum up, Soulsborne is the nickname for the more recent action RPG titles.
Basically, Dark Souls, Sekiro.
These include the Dark Souls trilogy,
Bloodborne,
Elden Ring, Demon Souls, Armored Core, Sekiro, and the like. All these titles follow a pretty similar formula. Rather bleak setting, very open sense of direction, kind of loose narrative. Usually the scenery does most of the storytelling for you, and of course, they're high difficulty. What really makes these games challenging is how their combat is based mostly on stamina. Being able to cover your flank and waiting for the right time to go on the offense without leaving yourself wide open. Souls are generally your EXP in these games, and when you lose souls upon dying, but you have a once per death chance to get them while dying. Since souls are both money and experience, it gets costly to try and stay alive. Kinda coincidental that most of the lore behind these games involves dying and respawning.
Cowards die 1,000 deaths, while heroes die but once. Unless they're playing video games, in which case heroes die a lot too.
They knew exactly what they were getting us into. If the actual difficulty wasn't hard enough, you could easily get thrown up by the dark and oppressive atmosphere. You don't come here to feel powerful. You come here to overcome hardships. If you expect something to go easy on you, you can just keep dreaming because around here, you're fair game. Honestly, any one of From Software's RPGs almost defines this list, so we can't really leave any of them off in good conscience. However, if you have to hold us down and force us to choose which game we feel has the best hard to fun ratio, we might have to go with Bloodborne, along with some of the freakiest monster designs. This title is faster paced and forgoes shields. You can't turtle your way out of this one. Plus, I just kind of like this one more. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Josh Scorcher is biased.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm biased.
part of the
Never
content.
made it a secret that I'm biased. Guess what? Everyone on the planet is biased. Oh, what next?
True.
You're going to tell me that my sense of humor rips off the nostalgia critic? Oh, wow. Great sleuthing there, Sherlock.
Wow. How do you get that good?
The reason the Soulsborne games are this low on the list is that after a while, it becomes possible to cheese them if you know how. A lot of the enemies have a giveaway for when they're about to attack. However, that's not to say it's going to be a cakewalk, nor does it diminish the amount
True,
of fun
because you're
you'll
going to
have.
die
Just
figuring out those patterns.
maybe you play these games with the lights on. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, I always do. Number 9.
I'm sure most people are fully aware that Metroid isn't the easiest franchise to get into. The games will expect you to get accustomed to every
So,
trick the games
who's the
pull
hard?
out of their sleeves. Those who came
And I
in
start with
prepared are sure
Dread.
to get their butts fried by the magmas of Norfair. Out of the 2D Metroids in particular, the one that's highly regarded as the hardest of them all is Metroid Dread. This is the game that really pushes the suspense level of the average Metroid game. Between the tough
those
enemies,
Emmys.
intricate puzzles,
Like,
and
you
new
really
power-ups
gotta
that
think
give
about
even
through.
veteran players a new facet to get accustomed to. And on top of all that, this game is home to the Emmy, invincible enemies constantly on the prowl for any sign of movement or sound. They can ambush you, kill you instantly, and you only have a sliver of a chance to escape if they catch you. They really sell the atmosphere and are exactly what put Dread in the name of the game. Now, despite everything I said, I still can't put this game any higher. This might sound baffling to some of you, but compared to the other games on this list, Metroid Dread is not that hard. The game leads you on
Let him
a fairly
explain.
linear path, so there's rarely an issue with getting lost, given the lack of open-ended backtracking. Plus, any Metroid player worth their salt would be able to get accustomed to the mechanics and patterns fast enough, especially since the game doesn't
True.
usually
And
demand
this is coming-
bullet hell levels of reaction timing. Say, the enemies. Sure, you have
Yeah,
Dread
been there.
mode to spice up the difficulty, but honestly, most of that mode is just tiptoeing around enemies so you don't graze whatever poison cloud they spawn off screen. It's more tedious than anything. But don't let that deter your impressions, however. Dread is still a really fun and challenging game. It's on this list for a
Can I
reason,
test?
after
I
all.
even took
Even
that
argue
game
this
myself
is
for
the best
the first
2D
time.
Metroid so far. It's fresh, balanced, and is sure to keep players coming back for the thrills. And getting kicked on the nards.
Again, can't attest to that, because yeesh. Definitely a curve, especially for me, a first timer. Oh!
You missed me!
Imagine that, but facing a full curtain of bullets, and you have entered your own personal bullet
Hello to-
hell. Essentially
Yep,
a
bullet hells.
subgenre of your regular shooters, but debatably twice as hard. They all do the same thing.
Which game?
Move around a tiny character, touching a bunch of bullets and objects moving at Mach 2 speed or something. Along the way, you may
Yeah.
have to deal with really small hitboxes and even littler leg room. Like many things in life, what makes a game stand out is its presentation. And some of the best bullet hells
Thank you, Megabyte.
prided themselves on theirs. They could have some of the most
where are we going?
creative visual
What
styles
the
and
hell?
aesthetics. Gritty, anime, Lovecraftian, whatever Parodius is,
What the-
etc. All open the door for interesting worlds and stories.
I'm gonna take a
Oh,
guess.
and awesome
Binding of
music.
Isaac? Oh, okay, never mind. Look at this.
Usually fast-paced or electrifying that really gets into the groove of trying to swim through a sea of possible
Woohoo!
death. One of the most notable examples of this is the Toho Project series, which strays away from the usual spaceships and instead goes full anime mode. Cute flying
Yeah,
anime
I mean,
girls
look
in
how
frilly
big that
dresses,
is.
Japanese mythology, intricate shooting patterns, cute girls again, basically all the essentials for a Japanese game. Even the music feels fresh out of an anime.
Hey, look at those, like, shot patterns. Good luck.
Not sure what else needs to be said other than a creative,
So it's just
fun
various,
enough
okay.
presentation goes a long way. After all, if you're going to be pelted by a downpour of bullets, might as well have some fun with some eye and ear candy. Because who knows if you'll even make it out alive.
Just going out with a bang in your head. Fair enough. Fair enough. I gotta give him credit for that. Fair, but moving along. I mean, eesh, never played a bullet hell in my life. Closest I can think of is Cuphead. Anyway, moving along. Number 8, or 7, sorry. Lost track there for a second. So what's next?
Of all the myriad of games and gaming genres, there are a few that are considered as overall challenging as the turn-based strategy game. One of the most notable franchises in this genre is Fire Emblem, of course. But we're not here to talk about Fire Emblem, not at this hour, no! There is another star of this genre that needs recognition. A soldier that has braved the trenches of gaming nichdom since 1994. Today in the spotlight is on XCOM. More specifically, XCOM 2. Now, firstly, we need to ask what makes this game hard. Let me count the ways. We have hit chances that are definitely lying to you. A fog of war that can hide 3 or more groups of enemies all holding hands just outside your field of vision. Sometimes suspect ranges of sight resulting in your troops ending up in sticky situations. And so much more. And that's just talking about the base game. The DLC award, The Chosen, which has a whole new storyline on top of the base game story, also brings with it a ton of new challenging mechanics and enemies. So, what makes XCOM 2 fun? The story, even in the base game, is engaging, and you want to keep pressing forward to victory. Also, you can customize and grow attached to each soldier, learning what tools you have at your disposal to overcome seemingly impossible odds and scraping out a victory by the skin of your teeth. Much like a game akin to Binding of Isaac, much of the fun is derived from taking all the game's BS and still managing to come out on top. From using your troops and your tools to their fullest and coming home alive from each mission, for some gamers, there are few things more satisfying and fun.
True, just proving it. Ha! Beat ya, game. Number 6.
Yes, we're looking for fun. We got the heebie-jeebies.
I'm sure no one is surprised
come
that
on.
this game would make it on here. With all the hype surrounding the game and how beautifully difficult it is, there's a strong audience who is all for the tormentous ride. Cuphead is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that's all about rushing through various punishing boss fights.
Basically,
it's
John
really
Boss
heavy
Rush.
on the visual, with all its characters and set pieces animated in the style of a 30s rubber hose cartoon. Pretty much a major reason for wanting to subject yourself to the grueling difficulty is to see just how far they go with these incredible visuals. And that's not even talking about how good the soundtrack is, with each boss having their own classical themed bops. And yet, when I say these bosses are difficult, I mean every word of it. A lot of these bosses demand gratuitous precision when it comes to dodging their attacks and finding the right time to deal damage. In all fairness, there's a steady difficulty curve as you stride through each aisle, and the weapons you can purchase open you to a new avenue of strategies to mingle.
DLC helps,
the game is
considering the extra
certainly
hit point,
proud
the
of how
dash
fancy
parry,
and
you know,
feisty
all
it
that.
is. Does it go a bit too far? Yeah, it
Yep.
kind of does. The run and gun segments can be so drawn out and painful to play through, especially since there aren't any checkpoints. Not to mention, some of the boss attacks can be super bulk up and RNG heavy, which can be extremely frustrating if you're going for an S-rank completion. Yes, Calamaria, I dare gaze to you. Thankfully, a lot of those look-based issues have been patched, and with the delicious last course, the game has been retooled to adapt to Miss Chalice's gameplay as much as it does the cups. It made fights like King Dice and the Phantom Express much less aggravating. The ever-present balancing issues do knock a few points off of Cuphead, but I do appreciate just how much love was poured into this game. The effort really pays off, considering lightning struck twice more with both the DLC and the cartoon show. Whatever comes in for the future of the Cup Bros, I'm sure we'll all be in for the ride.
Yep, I'm definitely up in there if it ever comes out for another part. Wonder what's next in the Cuphead show. Number 5?
Hey kids, you want a Metroidvania with cute insects in it?
Yay.
Well, good. Hope not killing God at the end.
What?
Hey, Hollow Knight, good to see you there.
Hi.
I know there was a horror version of Bugsnax or Bug Fables out there. Fans of Metroidvanias have been raving about the quick and succinct combat of this game, So it really shouldn't be surprising that this game is here compared to others of a similar type. One trope I see in games is sometimes the idea of feeling small compared to larger enemies. This is to show the power difference of what you have to endure to overcome these massive enemies. Heck, we literally did a whole list on bosses like that just recently. Well, the knight you play in Hollow Knight that isn't actually the titular Hollow Knight, don't ask, is really tiny. Because of this, it is more important to watch your surroundings, plan your jumps and attacks, and make sure you don't die. No duh. But if you do die, there's a mechanic that is similar to Soulsborne where you need to get your shade when you die or you lose money as a result. Despite that, this game isn't a Souls-like or a roguelike, it's a bona fide Metroidvania at heart. Despite your small stature, the game is practically one of the fairest you'd ever play. There is a straight difficulty curve, plenty of abilities to make your life easier, but not too easy, of course not, and some of the best bosses you will ever fight. Don't get me wrong, game is hard, but there isn't really anything about it that'll make you blame the game if you die. You can recognize your failures and improve upon them. If there are unfair fights, it's usually during the dream sections where there isn't any consequence for failure. This allows you to develop your skills with the normal bosses and then test them with the dream bosses. I know I keep going on about the bosses, but they're super good! The Mantis Lords, Nightmare King Grim, phenomenal. I guess Flukemar isn't that great, but whatever. Even with these praises, because there aren't as many consequences for failure, I couldn't put it any higher. Sure, you'll lose money when you die, but you can get them back. The next four are either much harder or have higher consequences for failure, which can add to the fun factor depending on who you ask. But don't detract from the tight gameplay and skill needed to master this game.
No, the hang tight for the comments that Silk Song isn't out yet. Oh, look, there they are.
Number 4, I mean, honestly, haven't played Hollow Knight in a while, so I don't know. What's next?
When you really get down to it, the difficulty in turn-based RPGs is really arbitrary.
Meh.
In most of them, you're pretty much invincible as long as you can heal off the damage you receive in a turn. Even the harder ones still fall victim to this. So what would a truly difficult turn-based RPG
where are we going?
look like?
Oh, literally in the title.
Everything about this game is designed to break you. Bleak setting, terrifying enemies, permadeath, merciless difficulty. A single wrong move can easily lead to a chain of events resulting in a failed mission. And then there's one of the game's core features, the stress system. In addition to taking damage to their HP, your characters can also take stress damage. If a character receives too much stress, they have a chance of becoming an active hindrance to the party.
Oh boy.
And if they receive more on top of that, it's an instant kill. Kind of. Oh, and there's no save scumming either. You have to live with the consequences of every action you take. With this in mind, Darkest Dungeon has a real sense of intimacy. Since your heroes aren't infallible, you relate to how much everything takes a toll on them. The smaller numbers for stats and damage means that it feels more down to earth. And then there's the combat itself. While it is undeniably brutal, it's also really deep and strategic. You know how most battles in RPGs just boil down to nuking everything with AoEs? Well, you never really get access to that kind of power in Darkest Dungeon. Every single action carries so much weight behind it that you feel the impact of everything. Battles feel less like filler and more like constant struggles for survival. This is further elevated by the incredible art and sound direction, to say nothing of the narrator, who is the perfect balance between epic and over the top.
Could you imagine how neat it would be if your life were narrated by him? It's been a long time, but it's finally almost done.
Success is clearly in view, or is it merely a trick of the lights?
Okay, I'm saying that maybe.
Yeah, honestly, if I heard that, I'm like, oh god, I've gone insane. Great, I'm hearing voices in my head. Awesome. Like, come on. Wouldn't you think that? Well, anyway, we're into the final 3, so shall we? Alright, let's see what tops the list.
Alright, now we talk about Fire Emblem. This is a series that has been
So,
incredibly
who's the
important to me
toughest?
in more ways than one. Not only is it the series that let me meet and marry my wife, but is also the series that made me angrier than a primate whenever it does something dumb. Yes, I'm still mad at Fates and Engage. You can't stop me! Considering
You
how much I
done?
love the modern
Sheesh.
Fire Emblem games, I decided to give some of the older ones a try. And considering
You
the
know,
reactions I got
permadeath and
for
all.
putting Titania on top 10 crushes, I think you know where I'm going. While some
Radiance?
of the older games may be more notorious, Path of Radiance is the game I consider to be the most linear in its difficulty curve. Yes, I know it has an easy difficulty. Yes, I know the Western version of the game got an even easier version of easy mode because even in 2005, Japan still thinks Western gamers suck. But despite that, there's still one facet of the game that will still make it difficult. Permadeath! Yeah, no casual mode for this one. Remember, the main reason I was able to get into Fire Emblem, for the most part, was the addition of casual mode FE2 onward. And while I am aware that permadeath isn't a bad thing on its own, stop adding me in the Discord, you Fire Emblem purists, the extra stress of losing your characters forever and having to restart and lose all progress if you do is a huge turnoff. Probably the same reason I don't play that many Soulsborne games. No, we're not opening that box either! The other reason I chose
Yeah, I'm
Path
good
of
too.
Radiance over other games is the addition of bonus EXP. If you wanted to grind in other Fire Emblem games, you needed a world map or to test your luck at the arena. Bonus EXP allows you to buff up your strongest units or catch up with some of your weaker ones without having to grind or risk your units. This lets you get back into what Fire Emblem is at its core. A strategy game. The choices you make in both giving EXP in battle as well as back in the base can either make or break your whole playthrough. What's that? You decided to give all your bonus EXP to Makalov and now you don't have enough for Jill and Boyd? Well, too bad. You're gonna have a bad time. Path of Radiance itself has one of the better stories and world building in the whole series. I
That's good
love
to
the
hear.
characters and gameplay so much that even with permadeath, I was able to enjoy the heck out of this game. Combine that with a solid difficulty curve that will test your strategic know-how even in lower difficulties, and you get our number 3 entry.
Nice job. Nice job, Radiance. Now, if only get you on the Switch, probably experience a lot more. Hopefully, no.
Everyone has that
Oh,
one
AFC.
game. The game that, even years later, they still can't beat. For me, that game is
F-Zero
GX. To this day, I still can't beat the final chapter of the story mode on normal. And then there's the rest of the game. With you literally going hundreds of kilometers per hour, a single mistake can, and often does, result in death. And unlike Mario Kart, you can't just instantly get back on the track after falling off. You gotta restart, and you have limited lives. And the tracks
Damn.
themselves are filled with hazards, jumps, and all manner of stuff to trip you up. Oh, and there are 30 people in a race, many of them
Yeesh.
wanting to kill you. So with such a controller smashingly hard game, why play it? Well, seriously,
My
the
heart beats.
sense
Sorry,
of
her son.
speed you feel at F-Zero GX is exhilarating.
I mean, look
It's
at the
on par
kilometers.
with and arguably surpasses some of Sonic's best outings. While the tracks are difficult, they're all really well designed and unique. With how
Woohoo!
quickly races can be over with, it means you're never far away from being able to have another shot at that part that tripped you up. The graphics are easily some of the
Come on.
best on the GameCube, with special mention going to the track previews. Seriously, just look at these things.
Hey, Rob. Good city. Metropolis.
And let me tell you, there are few things more satisfying than hearing that victory theme after just barely making it through.
Nice face. And our all mentions, shall we?
Super Castlevania 4.
Castlevania
Levels
4.
are hard, but bosses are easy. And it's all wrapped up in one creepy little package. God Hand. Some interesting death mechanics and a cheesily entertaining storyline, but the leveling system will test your resolve. Mega Man 03.
Man 03.
So much better now that you don't need to grind upgrades. Super Meat Boy.
Meat Boy.
It wanted us to feel the pain. It
It
worked.
did.
Pikmin. Building the army is fun. Keeping them alive is the challenge.
Not.
Advance Wars.
Advance
It's
Wars.
the strategy RPG without the RPG. For the balance. Kirby Mass Attack. A Kirby game where 100%ing the first world could take hours. Celeste.
Damn.
At least it gives you a choice between hardcore and forgiving. Hades. Love the game, but guys, real talk. It's built on a model of inevitable success. No matter how bad you are, you'll eventually win if you keep going. it doesn't belong on the list.
So, who's number 1 then? That should be interesting.
Before Ninja Gaiden became widely known for its hack and slash titles in more modern times, although so modern time is almost 2 decades ago by now, they were once a trilogy of NES side-scrollers. Alongside Castlevania and Battletoads, the Ninja Gaiden games were once regarded as some of the hardest games of the ancient gaming years. And like those two, these games don't age all too well. They're ridiculously glitchy and punish you so hard for even the smallest mistakes. Despite that, there's a lot to like about them. Tight controls, fun power-ups, and a thrilling dark atmosphere you can only get from games like this. But wouldn't it be great if you could have a game that's as versatile, difficult, and interesting as Ninja Gaiden, all while omitting those annoying glitches so we can get a clean, cohesive package? Well, to fill that need, let's bid welcome to our modern-day savior, Cyber Shadow. For those who haven't heard of it, Cyber Shadow is a spiritual successor to the ninja side-scroller genre. Like its old masters, the game is known for its fast-paced and ferociously difficult gameplay, but with all the updates that make it just so much more fun to play. The 8-bit aesthetic looks and sounds fantastic.
That's good.
It works really well for the dark techno vibe it's going for. Considering it came from under the banner of
Yacht
Yacht Club, it's amazing how much of this surpasses even Shovel Knight in some areas. Even the world and story have a good mix of spiritualism coexisting with technology. A lot of it could have easily been heavy-handed, but thankfully they say most of the details in logs that don't break the pacing in any way. But as usual, the bread and butter of the game is where it truly shines. The game can and will take cheap shots and flood you with a ton of hazards to deal with, but it's never too frustrating. Why? Because not only do you always start back from generous checkpoints, but there are a ton of power-ups and upgrades to earn as you progress. Double jump, fireballs, shurikens, super speed, and even deflecting attacks. It really feels like you're playing as a badass ninja with all these moves at your disposal. Considering how the enemies and bosses will get tougher and trickier, you had better master these techniques. Trust me, stages 8, 9, and 10 will kick your butt no matter how good you are at the game. Cyber Shadow does so much right from top to bottom, so it's kind of an oddity that it isn't much of a monster hit as Shovel Knight. Nor do people talk about it as much. Though I suppose when you stand next to Hollow Knight and the Soulsborns, there's gonna be some stiff competition. Doesn't help that it also gets compared to The Messenger a lot, which is also a great game in and of itself, but the approach is wildly different otherwise. If you're in for a hardcore game that also treats you to some nice story and plenty of content, I'd say give this game a roll. It may not fill every little niche, but there's more than enough to keep you playing and craving more. Few games can truly match this one when it comes to being hard and fun at the same time.
I'm Josh Scorcher and
Oh! Well, not sure that's a clue there. Just the whole knockout. I wonder if he's ever going to do those, like, Cuphead bosses. You never know. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. See ya.